So I'm back with a brand new bang on DIY video. I know it's been a little while, but this one is a Gold and Marble IKEA table hack tutorial. I'm going to transform two super budget IKEA tables into something much more Pinterest worthy. So I'm going to be making over the IKEA Vichjo glass and metal laptop table and also the Nessner wooden and glass bedside table. These are both really cheap from IKEA, and in fact I actually found my laptop desk in a charity shop for £10, so it was even cheaper. But these bedside tables are an absolute bargain at £9 each, so I bought two and I did the DIY on both of them. So we're going to be transforming the laptop table into a really cool marble and gold console or hallway table, and the little Nessner bedside table into your bedside table of dreams. Both tutorials are pretty much the same with the two pieces of furniture, and it's so easy to do. So here's how I did it. So this is the Vichjo laptop table in the flesh. As you can see, I found mine in black, the metal's black. You can actually buy it in white now, I think, at IKEA. It has this lower shelf, and yeah, it's quite narrow design with a removable glass section on the top. The bedside table is bamboo with a glass top. The glass top isn't removable once you've built the table, so we're actually just going to mask that off rather than remove it altogether. So the first thing I did to the laptop table was just to mask off this lower shelf, which isn't removable. We're actually going to use this as a really cute little magazine shelf, but for now I don't want it to get sprayed, so I've masked it off with paper and masking tape. The glass plate in the top, the glass sheet, I'm actually just going to remove and put to one side. The little bedside table, I'm going to mask off the glass on the top just so it doesn't get covered in spray. I'm just using my favourite ever masking tape, which is Gorilla masking tape. It is the best masking tape in the world. And just some basic paper, you can use newspaper or whatever. Cut it to size and seal the top all in. As you can see, I'm working outside because I'm going to be spraying, and I have protected everywhere with a dust sheet. I'm using Plasticoat primer in grey and my very jazzy spray trigger, which does make spraying a lot easier. You can pick these up for a couple of pounds, usually where the spray paint is. So I'm going to give both tables a good coat of primer. I always like to do nice thin coats, so I go in first with a really thin coat all over. Don't do it too thickly or you're going to get drips, so nice and thin first time. So I'm going to do the same with the bedside table. Again, nice thin even coat all over, making sure to get underneath and on all sides of the legs, and then I'm going to leave both tables to dry and then repeat this probably twice, so a total of 3 coats of primer, just to make sure that it's done really evenly and really well. Priming is so important when you're going to paint furniture. Once I'm really happy with my primer and it's all dried, I'm then going to move on to the gold, which is obviously the most exciting bit. And again, the same rule applies. Really nice, thin, even coats. That's the best way to get a nice, neat finish with your gold paint all over. You don't want any drips, so take your time, spray thinly and evenly, and leave to dry for plenty time in between coats. I'm using the Plasticoat Brilliant Metallic Gold, so it's not the matte gold, it's the one that has the lovely brilliant metallic finish, and that's going to give you a really nice shiny finish on your console table, especially on the metal. So I'm going back in here for coat number 2. Again, nice and thin and even. I think I did a total of 3 coats in the end, just to make it really neat and make sure there weren't any patches at all. When it's fully dry, you can turn it upside down and make sure you get underneath things, but also bear in mind parts that won't be seen. There's no point wasting spray if you're not actually ever going to see it. So for example, the parts of the table underneath the marble, you're not going to see there. So maybe don't worry too much about getting it perfect there. So while the tables are drying, I'm going to move on to applying the marble PVC onto my plate sheet of glass that's come out of the laptop table. So the first thing you're going to want to do is just lie it on the floor. Make sure there's no sharp bits and bobs on the floor, bits of grit and stuff, because this can actually cause dents and tears and things in your PVC. So make sure you've got a nice smooth surface. My PVC, as you can see, is a little bit old. It's been folded up in a drawer, and I probably could have used a better bit of PVC. However, I did manage to smooth it out okay. I would suggest you guys start with a nice brand new piece. So cut it to size. Leave a little bit of excess around the size of the sheet of glass, and then you're going to start off by just peeling a very small section of the PVC back. Then you're going to turn your sheet of glass over, and you're going to actually work with the sheet of glass right way up. So the little section that you've peeled back that's sticky, with a little bit of an overhang, you're going to stick that nice and central onto your piece of glass. So along with your PVC, you're going to want a nice soft cloth, and you're going to use this to buff out any bumps and smooth out the PVC as you're applying it. So if you don't know, this PVC, sticky back PVC, you can get in places like Wilko's, supermarkets, and you can also buy it on Amazon. So I'm going to link a couple of places where you can buy it below, and you can get different types of marble as well. A deeper black one, you can get one that's more yellowy. There's loads of different choices. So what I'm basically doing is I'm pulling away the backing sheet from underneath and slowly smoothing it out with the cloth as I pull it back little by little. So you want to work quite slowly, work out all of the bumps, all of the creases. It is a little bit time consuming, but it's worth it to get a really, really nice smooth finish. So I'm going to work my way along the piece of glass by peeling back the backing from underneath and smoothing down with the cloth. This sticky back PVC is quite forgiving. You can lift it up and seal it back down again quite a few times before it stops being sticky, but the best thing to do is to try and get it right first time, and that's why it's good to work slowly. So once you get to the end and you've taken the PVC right up to the edge, we're going to smooth down the last bit, and then we're going to flip the whole sheet of glass back over upside down again. We're now going to work on folding over the excess PVC that we've left around the whole piece of glass. So starting at the middle, I'm just basically going to fold it over and smooth it along. Try and pull it as tight as you can so you get a nice finish. If you find that you get any folds, I just use some scissors to make a little slit, which helps you overlap the two flaps, if that makes sense. And that means you can get a really, really nice, tight and neat finish around all of the edges. Of course, once you drop this back into the laptop desk, you're not going to be able to see the underneath. So as long as it's all stuck down, it doesn't really matter if it's not 100% neat. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to show you what I did with the corners. So the first thing I did was cut a little slit, as you can see. So that's slit number 1. And then I'm going to cut a second slit on the other side of the corner, and I'm going to fold that whole flap over. So as you can see, you're left with like a little rectangle of PVC, but you're also going to have a gap between the two pieces of PVC on that corner. So to seal that gap, I'm just going to snip a little bit of the excess of that off and fold that over, and that little piece of PVC is just going to cover up the gap between the two bits there, and that's just going to make it look nice and neat. Hopefully that makes sense. Of course, rewind and you can watch that again if you want to see exactly how I did it. So I'm just going to work my way around the whole piece. So when I'd worked my whole way round and I was all done, I turned the piece of glass back over and I just went round and smoothed out any air bubbles. I actually used a little credit card for this, or my IKEA family card. And I also used a very fine needle. If you've got some really persistent air bubbles, you can just prick a very tiny hole in them and then use that hole to just get the air out and smooth it down with the cloth. I managed to get a really, really neat finish on this piece, and it is worth just trying to smooth out those bubbles. Work your way from the centre out towards the edges and smooth the air out that way. Then back to the table, I'm going to take off the paper and the masking tape that was protecting the little table section and give this a wipe down ready, because we're actually going to cover this section with PVC as well. So I've actually pre-cut a piece of the PVC marble, and I'm going to use the same method. I've peeled back a small section of it. I'm going to apply this to the edge with a little bit of an overhang so I can wrap it round underneath, and then as before with the glass, I'm going to pull the backing paper away from underneath and smooth down with a cloth. It takes a little bit longer because obviously you're trying to work between the two sides of the desk, but it's exactly the same method as you've used before. So I'm working my way along nice and neat, and actually once I've finished applying all the PVC, I'm actually going to neaten it up even further by using a little craft knife just to trim off any overhang, because obviously I've cut the piece of PVC as accurately as I can, but to make it really, really neat, I'm just using the craft knife to finish off the edge. Then I'm going to fold over the excess underneath and use my cloth to smooth it off and get a really nice neat finish on these edges, because you're going to see those. And I repeated that for the other side of the little shelf too, and trimmed off any excess, and as you can see, got it really nice and neat. And now lastly, with the PVC, I'm going to cover the top of the little bedside table. So for this piece, I have purposely cut it a little bit bigger than the section of glass, because I am going to trim off all the excess with that really sharp craft knife. So I'm doing the same method, pulling back the backing paper, using a cloth to smooth, and then I'm pushing it right into the edge, as you can see, and I'm going to use my craft knife to trim off all of that excess. I'm also going to use my little craft knife just to cut out the corners as well, because this table has a design where the corners are actually empty of glass, and I'm going to follow that with the PVC. So it's a bit of a fiddly job, but again, it's just worth it to have that nice neat finish. If you don't have a craft knife, you could use a really sharp pair of scissors, or you could of course just cut your piece of PVC to the exact size and just be really careful when you apply it. And that's it. This is how my finished console table looks in my living room. I've actually got it next to my sofa with my lamp on it, and I've actually used the clips on the leg, which are obviously for all your laptop cables, to actually clip the cable for the lamp, which is quite handy too. I'm using the shelf underneath for magazines, and yeah, I just really love the way it looks in my living room. It fits next to my sofa perfectly, and I'm really happy with the finish. And then this is what my bedside tables look like after the DIY. So they sit in my spare room, one either side the bed, and the gold goes really nicely with the decor in there. I've got lots of gold accents. I use the shelf underneath to store magazines and a little candle, and yeah, I just think for £9 they're an absolute bargain, and the little DIY really does transform them, so really happy with how they look. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this DIY, and do watch my last DIY video as well, and of course don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos.